right now and in the next couple of years can influence your health, happiness, and wholeness, and your relationship with God and His perfect plan for your life and for your heart. Believe it or not, the decisions that you make in middle school and as you move into other places, other high schools and colleges, it will very much influence your life and your relationship with God. Okay. Technology doesn't like me. Okay, the next slide has to do with review, though. What did we talk about last week? What did we talk about last week? Yes, Gianna? Okay, so why we should use one another, right? The privacy of persons. Why is that so important? Why are persons more important than objects? Bridget?
Because they're living.
Okay, they're living. What else is important? Why else is important? Okay. Colin?
A person is a human being made in the image and likeness of God, and an object. The point or it's a telos of an object would be to be used and to be thrown away.
Good. Okay, the telos of an object is to be objectified. It's to be treated as an object. Whereas the telos of a human being, Gabriella, is what?
Is being treated like a human being.
Which means what?
Not treated like an object.
Which means what? Colin?
Wait.
Keep going, buddy. Right.
Oh,
It's just a technology hating thing. Go ahead.
I forgot what it was.
Mr. Jackie. Yes, you do answer the question. What's the telos of a person?
Telos of a person is on eternity with God.
Okay, so to respect and honor that telos, both of ourselves and of other people. I have no idea what just happened. This completely black. What does that mean? What does that mean? If we're respecting our own telos and the telos of other people, what does that mean? Yes.
We should give each man their due.
So justice. It's tied to justice. Good. Keep talking. How is it tied to justice?
Well,
Keep going. Don't watch me attack.
no, I'm just trying to
This is why we don't use technology at the school, apparently. This is what I always have to do. Okay, whatever, it's not working. But I don't really know why it's not working. But yeah, it is tied to justice. Right? So this review of a person differs in structure and in nature, okay, from a thing. Alright? I have no idea. I don't think I did. Yeah? Okay. Alright, well the computer's going completely bye-bye. It's a very pretty PowerPoint. You might be able to, so we might try it in a second. Okay, let it log off and then we'll turn it back on, okay? Alright, so the privacy of persons, right? Persons are more important. Alright, theology of the body itself, I had a whole bunch of facts. Alright, but we talked a little bit about what it is. What is it? It was written by whom and what is it? Yes?
It is by Pope John Paul II.
Okay.
It's a series of lectures that he gave at his Wednesday audience, I think.
Yes.
It explains how your body relates to God.
Good. It was a series of lectures that he gave at his Wednesday audiences. It was based also off of things that he had done previously, a work he wrote while he was still a cardinal called Love and Responsibility. Does anybody know what John Paul II's name was before he became Pope? Yes? Wojtyła. Okay? And do you know what nationality he was? Yes, Polish. He was Polish. Alright, and he wrote this work while he was still a cardinal. Why do you think he was so concerned with this question of how to love, and particularly marital love? He was a priest. Why do you think he was so concerned with this question? Noah?
He was concerned for his people, his congregation.
He was concerned for his people in his congregation. He had a lot of friends. But do these questions about how we ought to live out our lives as men and as women, does that have any bearing on the life of a priest? Yeah. Why?
Priests have certain names. go their life. If they still
Well, no. Okay, so only priests have to be chaste? So married people don't have to be chaste?
Well, everybody has to be chaste to a certain degree, but
No, everybody has to be chaste. Okay.
depending on your vocation, the level of chastity is different.
Well, it's not the level of chastity here. What it is that there's a difference between abstinence and chastity. And that would probably be an important thing to talk about. What's the difference between abstinence and chastity? Nobody knows this? I definitely talked to 7th and 8th graders to give us this distinction. Abstinence means that you do not have sex. Alright, it means you abstain from sex. A priest is abstinent. Married people are not. But that doesn't mean that they're not chaste. Their chastity plays out differently, but it's not necessarily that one is more or less chaste than the other. It's a different it's chastity of each vocation. Alright, does that make sense? Alright, so yes, oh my gosh, I don't know. This computer is particularly special. Yeah, it's alright, it'll figure itself out, hopefully. In Genesis, what John Paul II does is he looks back to Genesis to try to understand the meaning of our bodies, right? What does hylomorphic mean? We talked about that a little bit last week. Yes?
Being in both body and soul.
It means we're both body and soul, right? So, where do we get the creation account, the best creation account? If we want to understand ourselves, where should we look? Yes? Genesis 1 and 2, right? Which both give... What's doing? This computer is very special to begin with. Genesis 1 and 2 both give creation accounts. Alright? And in both accounts talk about a few different things. Okay, the moment of creation. Alright? John Paul II talks about something called original solitude. And those of you who are reading Milton right now might be able to figure out what that is. Who was created first? Yes?
Well, Adam was created first, and original solitude means that he didn't have a partner that was like him, that was in another eye like myself. He had animals and stuff around him, but he didn't have somebody who was the same being as him. So when God created Eve, he knew that was what he was supposed to be with.
Exactly, and you used a term that's really important to theology of the body. It's called another I like myself. What on earth does that mean? Another I like myself. Let's have someone who hasn't heard the term before try to figure it out. Olivia, what do you think that might mean? Another I like myself. I told you technology. Go ahead. Olivia, go ahead.
There's people that similar to you and
Okay, original solitude, right? Who's created first? Especially in the second Genesis account, it's very clear that there's a difference in who is created first. Here, Adam. Adam is created first. Okay? Then what happens? He looks, what's going on? Where do you think another I like myself comes into play, talking about the second Genesis account? Peter.
When God put him in the garden, he needed another human being who was like himself, maybe even just like God, who had a divine, not a divine, an immortal soul, someone he could share himself with.
Good. Okay, so imagine that. Imagine Adam, okay, at the moment of creation. Is he alone? In what senses is he alone, and in what senses is he not alone? Yes.
Well, he's alone by his, there's no other, well, how do I put this?
There's no
There's no other person like himself other than God.
Okay, but okay, so he has perfect relationship with God because it's before original sin, and he has he's around the animals, but he looks around, and how is he different? How is he different? He's part of the physical world, so he shares that with turtles and fish, etc., etc. But what's different? Allie.
That there's no one there that's made not like the God made, because God made him and there's no one else that was made from God.
Oh,
Well, it looks like.
Yeah.
okay, God the animals, right? So how is Adam? Go ahead.
There's no other person that can talk and like have a soul and think about what they're going to do and say.
Good.
And he got lonely.
There was a certain loneliness. Even though he had a perfect relationship with God, and he had all of the animals and all of the created world, he was lonely. Why? Why was Adam lonely? Yes.
He needed another one exactly like himself.
Not exactly. Be careful. Go ahead.
And he needed someone very similar to himself that he could relate to. And just like all the animals, God created them in twos. And he felt like he was missing his other half.
He felt like he was missing his other half. Which in a certain sense he was, the complementarity of the genders. Alright, so in the second Genesis account, how was Eve formed? How was Eve formed? Go ahead.
God put Adam to deep sleep, and then God took one of his ribs out and formed Eve out of his rib.
He formed Eve out of his rib. What do you think that tells us about the relationship between the genders? Noah?
They're made to be one.
They're made to be one. Exactly. Alright, so not only are we created male and female, but that the complementarity is both physical and metaphysical, right? There's a complementary, two halves of a whole, all right? The complementarity of the genders. Okay. All right. I do want to back up for a second. We'll continue the second Genesis account, but just in terms of what we're talking about, theology of the body. What's theology? Yes?
Study of God.
Excellent. How do our bodies have a theology? So this is all connected to Genesis. How do our bodies have a theology? What the heck does that mean? Yes?
Theology means the study of God. We're made in the image and likeness of God.
Good.
So in a way, but I don't know how if I could phrase this. We are part of God.
We mirror God. We're made in His image and likeness, right? God has infused life into us. All right? So that's exactly it, all right? That we have the theology of our bodies. Our bodies were not an accident. That's part of what I really want people to focus on, because I think a lot of times people will see what's going on in the culture, and they'll swing the opposite way. Go, oh, the body's bad. Why is the body not bad? How do we know the body is not bad? Yeah.
Because if we're all made in the image of God, then God has an image of every one of our bodies. And since He made each of our bodies unique but similar, they pertain to ourselves in a unique way. So since they're so closely related to God and ourselves, it's not too bad.
Okay, God made them, right? We are both body and soul. Could God have created beings who were just souls? Exactly. Did you just say He did? Yeah. Who are they? The angels. All right, our bodies are not an accident. Our physicality was part of the intention from the beginning. All right? And the complementarity of male and female was part of the plan from the beginning. It was not an afterthought. It was not an accident. All right. There's original solitude, and then there's another term that Pope John Paul II gives, which is called original unity. What do you think original unity? We have original solitude. Adam's by himself and looks around and realizes, I like these things, but I'm not like these things. Okay? What do you think original unity might be? Yes?
When he really met Eve for the first time, then that was the original unity, because he met Eve, and the two of them knew that this was the other half of themselves.
Okay. Keep going with that. Was there sin?
No, it was not.
Okay. In the beginning, how were Adam and Eve, when they saw each other, what did they see? When we see each other, you see a body, right? You know, we've got to know, me as a teacher, I've got to know you as students, so we know each other a little bit.